I wonder how many of you fellas and girls ever heard a guitar talk? You ever hear guitar talk? Well, if y'all listen real close, I believe you're going to agree with me that this guitar is going to say some of the same things I say. There's a little song about all the different animals, about the muskrat and the groundhog and the jaybird and the rooster and the tomcat. Muskrat, muskrat, what makes your head so slick? I've been a-living in the water so long, it's a wonder I ain't sick, I ain't sick, I ain't sick, I ain't sick. What do you think? Well, groundhog, groundhog, why is your back so brown? It's a wonder I don't smother to death from living in the ground, in the ground, in the ground, in the ground. Jaybird, jaybird, why do you fly so high? I've been eating them acorns all my life, and it's a wonder I don't die, I don't die, I don't die, I don't die. Now, rooster, rooster, why is your claw so hard? Been a scratching in the barn lot all my life, and it's a wonder I ain't tired, I ain't tired, I ain't tired, I ain't tired. Well, tomcat, old tomcat, why is your tail so long? Been a cussing and a fighting all of my life, and it's a wonder it ain't gone, it ain't gone, it ain't gone, it ain't gone. Well, I wish I was a mole in the ground. Wish I was a mole in the ground. If I was a mole in the ground, I'd root that mountain down. And I wish I was a mole in the ground. Oh, Timpy, let your hair roll down. Little Timpy, let your hair roll down. Let your hair roll down, them pretty bangs curl all around. Little Timpy, let your hair roll down. Take it, son. My Timpy wants a $9 shawl. Little Timpy wants a $9 shawl. When I come over here with that $50 bill, gonna bring her that $9 shawl. I wish I was a lizard in the spring. Wish I was a lizard in the spring. If I was a lizard in the spring, I could hear my little darling sing. And I wish I was a lizard in the spring. Well, I wish I was a little turtle dove. Wish I was a little turtle dove. If I was a turtle dove, I'd fly away to my true love. And I wish I was a little turtle dove. I don't like that railroad man. No, I don't like that railroad man. That old railroad man, he's gonna cheat you if he can, right down to your last long dime. Well, I wish I was a woolly boogie bee, zoom, zoom. Wish I was a woolly boogie bee. If I was a woolly boogie bee, I'd live in her cherry tree. And I wish I was a woolly boogie bee. And I wish I was a mole in the ground. Wish I was a mole in the ground. If I was a mole in the ground, I'd root that mountain down. And I wish I was a mole in the ground. do you want, son? You want your mama? Your mama? Froggy went to courting and he did right, Froggy went to courting and he did right, Froggy went to courting and he did right, a sword and a pistol by his side, He rode right up to Miss Mouse's door, Let me in. He rode right up to Miss Mouse's door, He rode right up to Miss Mouse's door and he hit it so hard that it made it roar, Then Miss Mousy let him in, Come in, Mr. Froggy. Then Miss Mousy let him in, Then Miss Mousy let him in, and the way they courted it was a sin, He took Miss Mousy right on his knee, Come here, you sweet thing. Took Miss Mousy right on his knee, Took Miss Mousy right on his knee, and he says, Miss Mousy, would you marry me? Well, Miss Mouse, she says, I don't know about that, Miss Mouse, she says, I don't know about that, Miss Mouse, she says, I don't know about that, but to think them so, you have to ask Uncle Rat, Well, what did he get for a wedding gown, What did he get for a wedding gown, What did he get for a wedding gown? A piece of hide of an old white hound, Now where will the wedding supper be, Where will the wedding supper be, Where will the wedding supper be? Way over yonder in a holler tree, The first guest was a big June bug, First guest was a big June bug, First guest was a big June bug, and he danced all around with a half a pint jug, The second guest was a bumblebee, Second guest was a bumblebee, Second guest was a bumblebee, and he danced around with a fiddle on his knee, Pick one, Jack. Well, the third guest was a little gray mouse, He was a bride's brother. Third guest was a little gray mouse, The third guest was a little gray mouse, and he says, Mr. Froggy, can I rent you a house, He was a real estate man, you see. Well, now the frog, he had to go on his honeymoon. So, Mr. Froggy went traveling across the lake, Froggy went traveling across the lake, Yeah, he was a bullfrog. Well, the froggy went traveling across the lake, and he got swallowed up by a big black snake, cheeks as red as a bloomin' rose, and eyes of the prettiest brown. She's the darling of my heart, sweetest little girl in town. Wish I had a glass of wine and bread and meat for two. I'd set it out on a golden plate and I'd give it all to you. Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I say. Shady Grove, my little love, I'm bound to go away. When I was a little boy, I wanted a Barlow knife, but now I want little Shady Grove to say she'll be my wife. A kiss from pretty little Shady Grove, as sweet as brandy wine, and there ain't no girl in this whole world that's prettier than mine. Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I say. Shady Grove, my little love, I'm bound to go away. When I went to see little Shady Grove, she was standing in the door, her shoes and stockings in her hand and her little bare feet on the floor. I wish I had me a big old horse and the grain to feed him on, little Shady Grove to stay at home and feed him while I'm gone. Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I say. Shady Grove, my little love, I'm bound to go away. Peaches in the summertime, apples in the fall. If I can't have little Shady Grove, I don't know a gal at all. If I had a needle and thread as fine as I could sew, I'd sew a pretty girl to my side and down the road we'd go. Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I say. Shady Grove, my little love, I'm bound to go away. A cherry that had no stone. I gave my love a chicken that had no bone. I gave my love a baby with no crying, and told my love a story that has no end. How can there be a cherry that has no stone? How can there be a chicken that has no bone? How can there be a baby with no crying? How can you tell a story that has no end? Cherry, when it's blooming, has no stone. And a chicken, when it's pippin', there is no bone. A little baby sleeping has no crying. And when I say I love you, it has no end. Away down yonder on Beaver Creek, sing song kitty can't you cry me oh. The gals all grow to be 6 feet, sing song kitty can't you cry me oh. He-mo, hi-mo, beetlebug, jingo, me, he, my, ho, pretty penny, winko, ram, double, doodle, snake, a ring, tang, a rattlebug, a sing song kitty can't you cry me oh. Well, our cow won't give milk in the summer. Sing song kitty can't you cry me oh, so we gotta take it from her. Sing song kitty can't you cry me oh. He-mo, hi-mo, beetlebug, jingo, me, he, my, ho, pretty penny, winko, rip-tatty, pitty-patty, blue-eyed pussycat. Sing song kitty can't you cry me oh, pick it, Jack. Well, away down yonder, not far off, sing song kitty can't you cry me oh. A jaybird died with a whooping cough. Sing song kitty can't you cry me oh. He-mo, hi-mo, beetlebug, jingo, me, he, my, ho, pretty penny, winko, ram, thumb, a doodle, snake, a ring, tang, a rattlebug, a sing song kitty can't you cry me oh. Mama's in the garden digging in the sand, sing song kitty can't you cry me oh. And Sally's in love with a hog-eyed man, sing song kitty can't you cry me oh. He-mo, hi-mo, beetlebug, jingo, me, he, my, ho, pretty penny, winko, rip-tatty, pitty-patty, blue-eyed pussycat, sing song kitty can't you cry me oh. He-mo, hi-mo, beetlebug, jingo, me, he, my, ho, pretty penny, winko, rip-tatty, pitty-patty, blue-eyed pussycat, sing song kitty can't you cry me oh. Most of you have heard about the mighty steel-driving man, John Henry. Well, there's a legend that goes along with John Henry. The good, hard-working folks in the South here that used to pick all the cotton claim that he was one of their very own. And the coal mining folks that work so hard in the mines claimed that he was one of their very own. He was such a mighty man. The people who built all the railroads across the country say that he belonged to their crew. Well, John Henry was such a huge man that when he passed on, the folks at the railroad donated a boxcar for his coffin. He requested they put his hammer and his crowbar in when they laid him down. Well, that night, and John Henry wasn't dead. He waked up, and he broke open that boxcar door, and he went over to Miss Polly Ann's door and left her a note under the door and said, "Honey, you meet me over in the next town. I'm going over there and drive some more steel." When John Henry was just a little bitty baby, you could set him on the palm of your hand. John Henry's mama looked down at him and said, "My Johnny gonna be a steel driving man, Papa. Johnny gonna be a steel driving man." Then when John Henry was just a little old boy and could sit on his papa's knee, picked up a hammer, then he said to his papa, "Hammer be the death of me." hammer be the death of me. Now John Henry was a steel driving man. He drove steel all over this land. Said, before I let that old steam drill beat me down, gonna die with my hammer in my hand. Die with my hammer in my hand. Well, John Henry's captain, he sat down on a rock, said, I think this tunnel's caving in. John Henry smiled at his captain and he said, hey man, that's my hammer-sucking wind. That's my old hammer-sucking wind. John Henry had a sweet little woman. Her name was Polly Ann. While Johnny lay sick and he had to go to bed, Polly drove that steel like a man. Polly drove that steel like a man. Take it, Jack. John Henry hammered in the Big Bend Tunnel till his hammer caught on fire. The last word that poor John Henry said, give me a cool drink of water for a die. Cool drink of water for a die. Well, they buried John Henry by the railroad track, put him 6 feet under the sand. And every time a freight train would come a-rolling by, they'd say, yonder lies a steel driving man. Yonder lies that steel driving man. Well, you get a line and I'll get a pole, honey. You get a line and I'll get a pole, babe. You get a line and I'll get a pole, and we'll go down to the crawdad hole, honey, baby mine. Well, I sat on the bank till my feet got cold, honey. Sat on the bank till my feet got cold, babe. Sat on the bank till my feet got cold, watching them crawdads jump in that hole, honey, baby mine. Pick it one time, Jack. Yeah. Yonder come a man with a sack on his back, Yonder comes a man with a sack on his back, babe. A great big sack on his back, got more crawdads than he can pack, honey, baby mine. Well, he fell down and he busted that sack, look out now. That man fell down and busted that sack, babe. Yeah, he fell down and busted that sack. Just watch him crawdads back and back, honey, baby mine. Well, what did the hen duck say to the drake, honey? Come here, you sweet thing. What did the hen duck say to the drake, babe? What did the hen duck say to the drake? Ain't more crawdads in this lake. Honey, baby mine, you get line and I'll get pole, honey. You get line and I'll get pole, baby. You get line and I'll get pole. We go down to the crawdad hole, honey, baby mine. Out in the meadow, there was a little tree, the prettiest little tree that you ever did see. A tree in a hole in the ground, and the green grass grew all around and around, and the green grass grew all around. Now on that tree, there was a little limb, prettiest little limb that you ever did see. A limb on a tree, and a tree in a hole in the ground, and the green grass grew all around and around, and the green grass grew all around. Now on that limb was a little forked twig, the prettiest little twig that you ever did see. A twig on a limb, and a limb on a tree, and a tree in a hole in the ground, and the green grass grew all around and around, and the green grass grew all around. Now on that twig there was a little bird's nest, prettiest little nest that you ever did see. Nest on a twig, and a twig on a limb, and a limb on a tree, and a tree in a hole in the ground, and the green grass grew all around and around, and the green grass grew all around. Now in that nest there was a little egg, a little blue egg, must have been a robin's egg. Prettiest little egg that you ever did see. Egg in the nest, and nest on a twig, and twig on a limb, and a limb on a tree, and a tree in a hole in the ground, and the green grass grew all around and around, and the green grass grew all around. Now in that egg there was a little bird, prettiest little bird you ever did see. A bird and an egg and an egg and a nest, and a nest on a twig, and a twig on a limb, and a limb on a tree, and a tree in a hole in the ground, and the green grass grew all around and around, and the green grass grew all around. Now on that little bird there was a little wing, prettiest little wing that you ever did see. A wing on the bird, and the bird, and the egg, and the egg, and the nest on the twig, and the twig on a limb on a tree, and tree in a hole in the ground, and the green grass grew all around and around, and the green grass grew all around. On that wing there was a little feather, prettiest little feather that you ever did see. A feather on the wing, and the wing on the bird, and the bird, and the egg, and the egg, and the nest on the twig, and the twig on a limb on a tree, and a tree in a hole in the ground, and the green grass grew all around and around, and the green grass grew all around. I went upon the mountain, gave my horn a blow. I thought I heard Miss Liza say, yonder comes my beau. Hey, Miss Liza, pretty little gal. Hey, Miss Liza Jane. Hey, Miss Liza, pretty little gal, riding on my train. I went to see Miss Liza, she's a bending o'er the tub, and the more I asked her to marry me, the harder she did scrub. Hey, Miss Liza, pretty little gal. Hey, Miss Liza Jane. Hey, Miss Liza, pretty little gal, riding on the train. I took old Dick and Dinah down, hitched him to the train. They give me a barrel of lasses to sweeten Liza Jane. Hey, Miss Liza, pretty little gal. Hey, Miss Liza Jane. Hey, Miss Liza, pretty little gal, riding on the train. Hey, Miss Liza, pretty little gal. Hey, Miss Liza Jane. Hey, Miss Liza, pretty little gal, I met her on the train. Along about 1825, I left Tennessee very much alive. Never would have got through the Arkansas mud if I hadn't been a-riding on the Tennessee stud. I had some trouble with my sweetheart's paw. One of her brothers was a bad outlaw. Sent her a letter by my Uncle Fudd. Then I rode away on the Tennessee stud. The Tennessee stud was long and lean, the color of the sun, and his eyes were green. He had the nerve and he had the blood, and there never was a horse like the Tennessee stud. One day I was riding through a beautiful land when I ran smack into an Indian band. They jumped their nags with a whoop and a yell, and away we went like a bat out of well. They circled their camp for a time or two to show 'em what a Tennessee horse could do. The redskin boys, they couldn't get my blood, 'cause I was a-riding that Tennessee stud. The Tennessee stud was long and lean, the color of the sun, and his eyes were green. He had the nerve and he had the blood, and there never was a horse like the Tennessee stud. So we drifted on down into no man's land and crossed that river called the Rio Grande. I raced my horse with a Spaniard's foal till I got me a skin full of silver and gold. Me and the gambler, we couldn't agree, got in a fight over Tennessee. We jerked our guns and he fell with her, and I got away on the Tennessee stud. The Tennessee stud was long and lean, the color of the sun, and his eyes were green. He had the nerve and he had the blood, and there never was a horse like the Tennessee stud. Well, I got just as lonesome as a man can be, dreaming of my girl in Tennessee. And that Tennessee stud's green eyes turned blue, 'cause he was dreaming of a sweetheart too. He's a big fella. So I eloped right back across Arkansas. I beat up her brother and then I had to slap her paw. When I found that gal with the golden hair, she was a-riding on the Tennessee mare. Whoa, boy. The Tennessee stud was long and lean, the color of the sun, and his eyes were green. He had the nerve and he had the blood, and there never was a horse like the Tennessee stud. Stirrup to stirrup and side by side, we crossed the mountains and the valleys wide. Came to Big Muddy, then we forded a flood on the Tennessee mare and the Tennessee stud. Pretty little baby on the cabin floor, little horse coat playing around the door. I love that gal with the golden hair, and that Tennessee stud loves the Tennessee mare. Oh, there was good horses. The Tennessee stud was long and lean, the color of the sun, and his eyes were green. He had the nerve and he had the blood, and there never was a horse like the Tennessee stud. Thank you, folks. Good afternoon. Thank you.